Welcome to Cooking with Benson. Okay, so I saw this thing on the Bon Appetit YouTube channel that Brad Leone did a while back where he salt cured some egg yolks, and I want to do that. So I've taken his recipe and modified it a little bit, basically to try some stuff out, because that's kind of like what I like to do. I like to experiment and change things and see what I can change. The base recipe, the 3.5 cups of salt, the 2.5 cups of sugar, 6 bay leaves, 1 teaspoon of maris bitter, and 1 cardamom pod, and then he did 2 tablespoons of peppercorn, pink peppercorn. I don't have peppercorn, cardamom pods, or the maris biber, which is a seedless chili flake. So I went 3.5 cups of salt, 2.5 cups of sugar, the 6 bay leaves, and then I did a teaspoon of just straight chili powder. And then I also blitzed up some peppers that I recently dehydrated myself, and they were good and like crunchy, so I can make like a flaky powder out of them. So that's what's in my this cup right here. That's the main essence of that recipe that he did. Now what I've also gone and done, I've separated out about a cup and a half, and then I've divided that into thirds. And what I'm gonna do is, in one of them, I have this Asian garlic rub that Weber makes. I've blitzed it into the mix. And then in the other one, I have this McCormick honey sriracha mix. I've blitzed that into one of them. And on the other one, I had this oak smoked salt, and I blitzed that into another one. So I wanna see if by blitzing it into the curing mixtures, if that's going to change the initial flavor of the egg yolks. So, all right, so break it on the counter, separate my eggshells, and then like I said, I'm just going to separate it in my hand. What you can do is you lay the egg yolk in your hand like that, and just kind of slightly open your fingers, and the weight of the egg white will start to pull itself through your fingers and pull itself off of the egg yolk. Sometimes you might have to slosh it back and forth a little bit to get the egg yolk to kind of separate a little bit more. And what I do then is just lay my fingers at the bottom of the egg yolk and then kind of gently roll it. And what that does is it pulls the egg yolks past my fingers. So I've still got a good bit of egg yolk, or egg white, sorry, egg white on there. I just kind of want to get that off. So see how that last little bit's hanging there? Sometimes you can pull it to separate it a little bit. And it's like wrapped right around the center of my egg yolk too, so. Come on, guy. Okay, so what I did there was I gently rolled it from one hand to the other, and you can see there I've gotten all the egg whites off. So I'm gonna gently plop this into one of my little nesting containers here without busting it. All right, so I want to show you what I was working with here. So this is the oak smoked salt. This is the Asian garlic rub. This is the honey sriracha. And then that's just the straight regular batch. So now what I'm gonna do is take, for the 4 salts I have separated, I'm gonna lightly dust it over top of it till it gets a good layer above it. And then I'm gonna lock the lid down, making sure I don't put so much in here that when I put the lid down, it squashes my yolks and bust them. So like I said, they're gonna go in the fridge for 3 to 4 days. And one of the things he specifically says in his video is like, make sure you're being careful when you dust it back over, because if you just kind of dump all your salt in this, it's gonna probably bust your yolks. So this is my oak smoked salt, and you can really smell the oak smoke. I honestly tell you though, it's liquid smoke. They basically mix liquid smoke with this salt, and then they dump it in a dehydrator to dehydrate the salt back out, because it's too smoky to just be oak. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do a lot of smoking and stuff as far as like barbecue and stuff like that goes. So you know the difference between fake and stuff. So basically you're gonna let it snow down on my egg yolks until it's completely covered. it's covered, but gives me enough space to put a lid on it. I'm not going to, actually another thing, but he says not to let it sit there, because I mean, you kind of want some of the moisture to evaporate out. I don't know, my worry is that the kids will drop something on these, so I may end up just lidding these anyways. So I'm gonna finish doing the rest of these, getting them dusted before I decide if I'm gonna lid them or not. I'll let you know when I decide. I don't think lidding them is gonna be an issue, to be honest with you, because that salt should still pull out the moisture, and it should keep the salt from pulling any moisture from the fridge. So I don't think covering them is going to be a bad thing. But all right, so it's been about 10 days since we put our egg yolks in salt. I'm going to kind of excavate them out real quick and see what they look like. I know in the video that I originally watched on Bon Appetit, they only did it for about 3 or 4 days, or 4 or 5. Actually forgot these were in there. It's been kind of a crazy week with this whole thing going on out in the world. So I'm gonna get them open and take a look at them, and then we're gonna get them into the dehydrator to fully dry out, because basically what they're saying is these should be like almost as hard as like a good Parmesan cheese, so that you can grate them over pasta or whatever. So first thing I've opened, you can see like this thing is almost gooey, the salt is. So we're gonna get this egg yolk out, and I'm gonna dehydrate these salts so that I can reuse them again. So I'm gonna try and peel it back a little bit at a time. This salt smells great, the salt mixture does anyways. This is pretty cool. So you can see it's still pretty moist on the outside. I've still got a good layer of salt on this backside. I'm just trying to be gentle to get as much salt as I can off of it, because I really don't want too much salt left on it when it goes in the dehydrator. I guess it wouldn't matter, because if the dehydrator dehydrates the salt, it'll come off too. So it is a little like gooey on the outside, but this thing is definitely like firmed up. So that's pretty cool. All right, well, these guys are gonna go in the dehydrator. I gotta dig out the other, what I got? 4, 5, 6. I got another 6, I think. I'm gonna dig those out of the salt cure that they're in and get them in the dehydrator, and I'll bring you back once I've dehydrated these so that we can try them out and give them a taste. Again, I did different salt recipes on each of these. So this is an Asian ginger recipe. Oh, it smells so good, you guys. It smells very like sesame and gingery and a little garlicky. So this is our, and what I'll do is I'll make sure I keep them separated. So this is our Asian ginger rub. Get that guy in the dehydrator, and I'm gonna dig out the rest. And I'll let you know if between now and then I break any of them or destroy any of them. But I will bring you back after they're done dehydrating. So I just wanted to show you that that's what you can expect. Again, 10 days, probably too long. That's probably why the salt caked so much around them. It pulled out so much moisture. But again, if I do this again, I will do this again if this ends up working out the way I want it to. I'm gonna do this again probably today, after the salt dries out a bit. All right, welcome back. It's been many moons since we salt cured our eggs in the refrigerator, our egg yolks, and then threw them in the dehydrator. Now, I did let these run in the dehydrator for almost 15 hours, because according to the video from Bon Appetit, the egg yolk should get like hard, like almost like Parmesan. In the dehydrator, they never really reach that peak like Parmesan cheese hardness, but I have had these in the fridge for a couple of days, and they've reached it, like they are Parmesan cheese hard. So maybe that was just that they need to dehydrate it and then refrigerate it for a little bit. But again, just to recap, we did 4 of the just plain salt brine that they use. So that's what they turned out to look like. So a lot of salt on them. And then I took it a step further, and we made a garlic salt version. So, and then this is the Asian ginger seasoning that I had, and then this is a Nashville hot chicken seasoning that I used. So you can definitely tell a difference in the color. Like this one's got a, it probably doesn't show well on the video, but this one's definitely got a very red hue to it from the Nashville hot chicken spice. This has it's a darker color, but what I find interesting is This one almost looks candied because of the ginger and stuff that was in the Asian seasoning. I mean, these still have like a wet appearance to them, but the Asian ginger one definitely looks like it's been candied versus is just the salt has kind of dissolved. So I find that interesting, but the rest of them look fine. So what we're gonna do is crack these open, give you a midsection shot of a couple of them, and then we'll get to tasting them and see if there's any difference. So we're gonna go with the original one that they use first. So just gonna, you know, get a knife and cut right through this guy. Okay. So I mean, it's got a gorgeous like yellow color. It gets a little darker in the center, where some of the moisture is. It's still in there, but it's not in there, you know what I'm saying? I know you don't. It's really gorgeous color to it. It's like very dark. It's very dark, rich looking. So let's okay. So this is the original one. Let's just see. I mean, if I get it real close, it smells eggy, but for the most part, it's not overwhelmingly eggy. You know, like even if you scramble eggs, it's got a very egg smell. This doesn't, it's not like overwhelmingly, but it's very salty. Now it's very salty and yolky. I mean, in this stage, it's very yolky there. Salt dissolves, it gets very egg yolky, but it is very salty when it hits your tongue first, so. All right, I'm gonna do the garlic salt one, just to see if maybe the garlic kind of came through a little bit. Here is the center of the original. This is the center of the garlic salt one. See how this one almost has layers to it? And you can definitely tell there's a difference in flavor. This one isn't as salty. Maybe I got some more of the salt off of it when I was excavating it out of the salt. The yolk on that one's a little bit more richer. And you can, I like that because I got like that smoked garlic on the backside. That was good. I like that one a lot more than the original. So far, the first one says that if you change the salt recipe up, you're gonna change your flavors as well, and that the yolks will actually imbibe those flavors. So let's do the Asian garlic one. All right, Asian garlic. That one's as salty as the first one, but the Asian garlic seasoning comes through a lot more. There's a little heat on the back of the tongue, but not like overwhelming. Like it's that light ginger flavor. And there's a bit of sweetness to it too. Interesting. Interesting indeed. All right, and this is the Nashville hot one. It's not bad. It's not overwhelmingly spicy. It's definitely on the back of the tongue like a Nashville hot chicken spice does. But now the question is, what are these good for? Like what can I do with these? So some things they recommended was putting them over, like grating it over pasta or something like that. So let's find something warm that we can grate this over and see if it changes the flavor, if it even adds anything to it. So the first thing we're gonna do, I do have some noodles boiling, so if you hear any funny noise in the background, I've got just plain asparagus, because what I wanted to do is I wanted to try it with something that had an overpowering flavor, and asparagus does. Now asparagus is great at capturing any of the seasonings that you put with it, but asparagus has a very specific flavor. So what I did is just did plain asparagus, and then I have asparagus with a little bit of butter in the bowl with it, and I'm gonna microplane some of this on it. So I'm gonna do let's do the spicy one, and then when I do the noodles I'll do the regular one. So you instantly get the salty flavor from the egg yolks, but that's just because it's very prominent. Because I use the spicy one, I get a little bit of heat to it too. But the question is, does it change what I could just do to asparagus with butter and regular seasoning? Does the egg yolk bring anything out? Does the egg yolk add anything? And I don't think it does, not with the asparagus, but. All right, so what I did now is I put a little bit of butter, went ahead and pre-microplane the egg yolk into the butter, and then added the hot noodles so that everything can kind of melt and incorporate, and then add just a little bit of pasta water to it. So that's kind of what it gave me here. It smells good. it's interesting because there is some of the same stuff in that spice mix that you would put in like sausage. So it's got a somewhat sausage smell to it, which is kind of weird, to be honest with you. But all right, so let's give this a shot. So this is the regular salt cured egg yolks that the Bon Appetit video suggested using. A little bit of butter, a little bit of pasta water, and then the pasta itself. Let's see what it does for it. So I did not salt this pasta water. I wanted it to get as much of the flavor from the egg yolks as possible, so that the extra salt didn't kind of like ruin anything, you know what I'm saying? So here we go. But between the butter and the egg yolk, I didn't have to salt the water. There's plenty of salt on that egg yolk, but I grated about half of an egg yolk into about a cup of pasta with maybe a tablespoon of butter, and then maybe a tablespoon of the pasta water. So it's not like the pasta water is doing anything but giving us a little bit of starchiness to kind of thicken the butter and stuff back up. But I think that egg yolk, it enhances, it's going to sound weird, but it enhances the starchiness of the pasta. So that pasta, what makes pasta so amazing is it's this rich, heavy, home good feel, like sensation when you're eating pasta. Like even just straight plain pasta, like that's good. Like it's a carbohydrate, your body enjoys it. Even with no salt, no nothing on it, pasta is good because it accentuates that, like that home cooking, home feel. It gives you warmth. It's almost like a good soup on a cold day is what pasta does. The egg yolks in this versus like the asparagus, they did nothing for the asparagus except give it a saltiness. But the egg yolk here enriches this pasta and the starchiness of the pasta, and it makes it so much more homey feeling, so much more, it kind of expands on the flavor of the pasta itself and then gives a richness to it. So I will say I did enjoy it in the pasta. All right, so the question I guess is, would I do this again? Would I spend upwards of 3 days making dehydrated egg yolks? Is it worth the cost? Because you've got a lot of like egg whites that you're losing and stuff like that. So the question is it worth it to do it? Yes and no. So there's a lot of time spent. Not only that, but like once you dehydrate the eggs, you've got to also dehydrate your salt so that you can reuse it again. And then you have to put your salt through a like a food mixer or food processor so that it kind of breaks it up a little bit more, because when you dehydrate that salt, it just becomes a salt block. So there's a lot involved in this process, as you can see through the videos and stuff. But yeah, I would probably do this again. This is not something you're gonna make in like massive batches. You're not gonna make a pasta dinner for 10 people and follow this process because it's tedious. You have to have a dehydrator. I mean, you can hang dry them too. That would work as long as your house didn't get above, say, 70 degrees or 72 degrees. So you could hang dry them and not require a dehydrator. It's going to take longer to hang dry them, so then you're probably looking at 6 to 7 days to probably get them dried. But for the most part, I enjoyed the learning process, the science behind it, because you know, you got the salt pulling all the moisture out of the eggs. Not only that, but the salt is then killing any kind of bacteria that might be on them. So these eggs have been salt cured. They're going to last, especially if I leave them in the fridge for months or longer, just because of the way they've been preserved. And I think that's something that really interests me, is this whole science behind it, like learning to pickle stuff and can stuff and salt cure stuff. So I think maybe what we'll do is I'm going to buy some, like a slab of beef or something, and see about salt curing an entire slab of beef or something like that. Like, I like the I like the science behind this. And of course, this tasted really good. Now, like for a family of 4, I could probably do 4 egg yolks and do a family of 4 of just literally a pasta butter and egg yolk dinner like that, and I think the kids would really enjoy it. You could even take and enhance this with, say, some fresh vegetables. In this sense, I would say even adding the asparagus that we cooked earlier to the pasta and just kind of mixing it up and eating it like that, then you're going to get multiple levels of flavor in there. You know, you're going to get the asparagus and the salt and the egg yolks and stuff. That might enhance the richness of the asparagus. And I don't think the asparagus would overwhelm what you're getting from this pasta. So that's an option. You could even add a little bit of hot sauce if you're into spicy things. But I liked it. I enjoyed this process. I'll probably do it again. I'll probably even play around with some other flavors and do it again. But I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Today's video is brought to you by the letter T for Tennessee tequila. So let me know if you try this. Send me pictures if you try it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or concerns, and I'll answer them. So that's the end. and we'll see you in the kitchen.